On August 20, 1966, an 18-year-old boy flying a kite on the slopes of Morro do Vintém chased his toy into the rain-soaked brush. There, he stumbled across two bodies lying side by side in the dirt. The men were dressed in formal suits and heavily draped in identical waterproof coats. A coroner would later determine there were 0 external injuries, no signs of a struggle, and no physical indication of how they had died. But the most baffling detail lay across their faces. Both men were wearing heavy, crudely hammered eye masks made of solid lead, completely lacking any holes to see through. Beside them sat some mundane items, an empty mineral water bottle and a packet of damp towels. Tucked inside one of the victim's pockets was a small, weathered notebook. Alongside electronic equations and parts lists was a set of precise, time-coded instructions. The handwritten text read, 16:30, be at the specified location. 18:30, ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals, await signal, mask. Men wearing tailored suits and carrying ordinary receipts do not usually equip themselves with lead blinders to ingest mysterious capsules in the rain. This bizarre intersection of everyday routine and cryptic ritual left investigators struggling to understand why two men were waiting for a signal that never arrived. Police identified the men as 32-year-old Manoel Pereira da Cruz and 34-year-old Miguel José Viana. Far from being societal outcasts, they were highly respected, technically skilled electronics technicians running a successful radio and television repair workshop 160 miles away in Campos dos Goitacazes. 3 days before their bodies were found, the pair traveled to the city of Niterói under the guise of purchasing electronic parts for their business. Investigators traced their final afternoon. Caught in a sudden, heavy downpour, the two men stopped at a local retailer and hastily purchased identical waterproof raincoats, appearing highly agitated to the saleswoman. Shortly after, they stopped at a nearby bar to buy a single bottle of mineral water. Miguel was seen compulsively checking his watch. Yet, despite their apparent rush, the men insisted the waitress hand them a receipt so they could claim a deposit refund when they returned the empty glass bottle. The police also discovered that the technicians had withdrawn a massive sum of cash before leaving home, equivalent to roughly $10,000 today. When the bodies were found, that money was completely missing. Demanding a refund receipt indicates Manoel and Miguel expected to survive the afternoon and walk back down the hill. The vanished cash pointed investigators away from a simple double suicide, suggesting the men had walked directly into a lethal, carefully orchestrated scam. The investigation soon revealed a hidden side to their lives. Manoel and Miguel were deeply involved in scientific spiritualism, a mid-century Brazilian subculture that theorized spiritual realms and extraterrestrial entities operated on specific high-frequency electromagnetic wavelengths. Applying their professional expertise, the technicians built clandestine radio transmitters, actively trying to bridge the gap and communicate directly with these non-human forces. When detectives searched their workshop, they found the tools and scrap lead used to craft the heavy masks. The technicians believed a successful cosmic contact would produce a blinding, high-energy burst of light, and they built the eyewear specifically to shield their retinas from the radiation. They were already testing these ideas in the field. 3 months prior, the men conducted a nighttime experiment on the shores of Atafona Beach. The resulting low-altitude explosion generated a blinding fireball and a shockwave that rattled houses 10 kilometers away. Just 1 month later, a second experimental device detonated in Manoel's own backyard, destroying a portion of his garden and leaving behind a twisted network of metal pipes and insulated wire. These rational mechanics were actively playing with volatile, high-energy forces they didn't understand. Their presence on Vintém Hill marked a dangerous, high-stakes collision between technical expertise and spiritual obsession. Because of bureaucratic delays and the steep, muddy terrain of Vintém Hill, the bodies were left exposed to the sweltering, humid Brazilian summer for 72 hours before finally reaching the morgue. By the time pathologists examined them, the advanced state of decomposition made standard toxicology testing impossible. The chemical makeup of the mysterious capsules mentioned in the notebook would never be scientifically identified. This lack of physical evidence was compounded by a massive media transcription error. Early press reports claim the notebook instructed the men to ingest capsules with orange. In reality, investigators had completely misread Miguel's cramped cursive handwriting. The phrase was actually a post effect, meaning after effect. This debunked years of conspiracy theories about orange juice masking poison. Between the destroyed biological evidence and the rampant public misinformation, the exact physical cause of death became a permanent void in the historical record. Today, the case rests heavily on two primary theories. The first is a lethal deception, a malicious third party aware of the men's esoteric beliefs and the large sum of cash they carried, lured them to the hilltop under the guise of a spiritual initiation and fed them a fatal dose of poison. The second is a fatal experiment. The two technicians willingly consumed an accidental, lethal overdose of powerful psychedelics, genuinely believing the drugs would open their minds to a UFO visitation. Preparing to witness the brilliant light of another world, they strapped on their handmade lead masks, a final act of protection that ultimately left them completely blind in the dark. Whether betrayed by a third party or blinded by their own ritual, they met their end at the intersection of technical skill and desperate belief. Two men of science waiting on a dark hilltop for a signal that never arrived.